Yeah. So in the last session, we have gone through for loop and decision-making statements like if block, if else block, and nested if blocks, right? So you've seen a few examples in that. So now today, now we'll go with while loops and nested loops, and then followed by functions. So let us understand like what is the importance of while loop, and yeah, and we'll move further. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, are you guys able to see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so till here we have finished yesterday. Like I'll just repeat it. Like the for loop, it has the ability to iterate over the items of any sequence. Right? Yesterday we have discussed like it can repeat the process, over any sequence. Sequence in the sense it might be a string, or it might be a list, or it might be a tuple, or it might be a dictionary. Yeah. So I've seen some range functions, how to use range function inside a for loop, and yeah, we have printed out few statements there, and we have used if loops also inside the for loop, like we have used break statements, continue statements, and all, right? So today we'll discuss more on a while loop. Okay, first let us open our Jupyter notebook. Okay, so session 2 .ipynb ipython notebook, and yeah, so yesterday we have started our loops. Okay, so today we'll look into a while loop. While loop. So how while loop is used in Python? So let us understand like the definition of while loop, or the basic understanding about while loop before. Okay, so while loop is something where it can execute a set of statements as long as the condition is true. Yeah. So we have checked the for loop. So it doesn't have any condition, particular condition actually. So it understands the length of that particular sequence and it executes the output. But coming to while loop, no, it executes a set of statements as long as the condition is true. I'll define it like I'll show you a practical example so that you'll understand it. But yeah, so try to understand the statement. It executes a set of statements as long as condition is true. Yeah. So we'll have a condition there. As long as the condition is true, it executes. I mean, it repeats that loop again and again and again. Okay, we'll just have a quick glance about while loop while looking at some example. Okay, right. So we'll consider a variable, any variable like a is equals to 1, a is equals to 1, and we'll use while loop. While we'll write the condition while I is less than 10, use a colon. When you are using a colon, when you click on enter, automatically it shows us that indentation block. So yeah, we'll print out the a, and then we'll increment the value. Or directly you can increment it by using some assignment operator. Sorry, so we are using a, right? So sorry, we'll use a only. Okay, let us see. So what happens now? If I execute this instructions, yeah, see, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So initially the value was 1, while a is less than 10. So it goes into this condition, 1 is less than 10. Yeah, the condition is true, and then it prints that state. If the condition is true, it enters into this block and print a. So it prints out the statement like a is 1, right? So the value of a is 1. Now it prints out 1, a plus equals to 1. That means it is incrementing the value of a with 1, a equal to a plus 1. The meaning of a plus equals to 1 is a is equals to a plus 1. That means a equal to a plus 1 is a equal to 1 plus 1. It becomes 2. Now it goes into this condition again, 2 is less than 10. Yeah, and it identifies that condition is true, and it prints that statement. Now the value of a is 2. So it prints the statement true 2, and then again this incrementation is done after it prints the statement, that is a equal to a plus 1, that is a equals to 2 plus 1, that is 3. So now the value is 3. It goes into this statement and so on. So it goes into the loop again and again and again and again until the condition is true. So once after 9, we have the value. Once the 9 is done, we increment the value a to 10. 10 is less than 10, which is not right. Right? The statement is wrong. So at that point, no, the loop breaks. You get that, right? So
Sir,
yeah,
sir,
yeah, please.
it's same for extra days homework, sir. Even numbers in a given range. Here we give a plus equals to 2.
Yeah, I mean, not a plus equals to 2. You need to write the if statement there. Like a percentile 2 is equal double equal to 0, then print that number.
A
You can,
plus 2.
yeah. You can use while loop. You can use for loop also. That's not a problem. You can print out the
Okay,
even
sir.
numbers. Okay, yeah. But while loop, no. So for loop, it doesn't have a particular condition. I mean, like, see, so once until the condition is satisfied, we are giving the condition here, a less than 10. But here you don't have any condition. It takes the length of all the sequence. A sequence might be a string or list or tuple or dictionary, anything. So according to the sequence, no, it ends that loop. But here, according to the condition, it ends the loop. Remember, while loop is, see, you can clearly see. For the for loop, I've given a definition here. A for loop is used for iterating over a sequence. Okay, a for loop is used for iterating over a sequence, and while loop, it executes a set of statements as long as the condition is true. So until, like, as long as the condition, whatever you give the condition, here I have given the condition as a less than 10, but you can give whatever condition you want. So until and unless that condition is satisfied, it repeats the loop. If the condition is not satisfied, then it stops that loop at that particular point. Okay, yeah. So
Okay, sir.
your homework for today is like use while loop and show me one practical example, like anything whichever comes to your mind. Use while loop and print the statements and show me the output, like anything you require. Okay, yeah. So a while loop statement in Python programming language repeatedly executes a target statement as long as a given condition is true. Yeah, so that's the point. As long as the given condition is true, the while loop gets executed automatically. So this is the syntax for it. While is a keyword and expression, the condition whatever you want to give, and followed by the statements. And before this, now you need to initialize a value. Okay. So nested loop. Multiple statements in a loop can be done. Okay. See, you can use n number of for loops now. Like inside a for loop, inside a for loop, inside a for loop, you can use n number of for loops there. Okay, those are called as nested loops. Okay, see, like we have used nested if loops, if you remember, like if, elif, 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 and so on. Like you can use n number of elif statements there, right? In the same way, whenever there is necessary, you need to use like how many for loops are required. You can use that many number of for loops there. Okay, let us see. Like we'll take two lists with the list. Each and every list contains some numerical values, and then we'll try to use two for loops, and we'll try to execute some statements there. We'll use it. Okay, I'll use a 1 comma 2 comma 3 comma 4, and then followed by I'll use b 5 comma 6 comma 7 comma 8. Yeah. So using multiple for loops is a bit confusing, but if you understand the concept, no, then these for loops, these multiple for loops, or these nested loops, these are used for better automation purposes. Okay. So fine, let us see. For first for loop, I'm using the first for loop for I in a. Okay. If I print I, the output will be 1 2 3 4. Right. Yeah. See, 1 2 3 4. Okay. Now if I'm using first J in B. So there's a second for loop which I'm using inside a first for loop. Remember that. Yeah. So we're using a second for loop, and that second for loop is being used inside a first for loop. Okay. So now what happens if I use the print statement here? Print. Let us go with J. Okay. Okay. I'll reduce the numbers so that you will not get confused. Okay. I will use 1 and 2. What happens if I print this? Okay, see. So the output is 5678 and 5678. So how it is? So I'll explain you. See, clearly the first for loop inside A, their values 1 and 2. The 1 will be assigned to I, right? 1 will be assigned to I, and that I, whatever the value of I is pushed into this block. And inside this block, we have another for loop for J in B. So B, we have 5, 6, 7, 8. And B, what it does is, it assigns the first value 5 to J and prints that statement. And again, this loop is not completed. See, this loop is open now. Until and unless this loop is finished, this will not get executed. Okay, because we have entered into this block and this loop will be executed always whenever you enter that into that block. Okay, after that 5, it assigns the J value to be a 6 and it prints down the J, and 7 and 8 as follows. Okay, 5, 6, 7, 8 is printed under the value 1, which belongs to A. Okay, the first I value is 1 and it enters into this loop and it prints out all the statements of for 5 J in B and it executes 5, 6, 7, 8, and the I value was 1 still, and the 1 value is finished now. The loop is finished and this block is finished. Now it takes the value 2. It considers that value 2 inside I and it enters into this block for J in B, and it prints the J. For the number 2, it prints again the entire for loop. So 5, 6, 7, 8, for the first 5, 6, 7, 8 belongs to the number 1 in A, and the other 5, 6, 7, 8 belongs to the number 2 in A. Remember. Yeah. So what is happening here? So once you are getting assigned to one for loop, automatically it is entering into that logical block. If inside the logical block also you're applying a second for loop, it finishes off that entire for loop. That's the point. It finishes off that entire for loop, the second for loop, which is present inside the first for loop. And after finishing of that entire for loop, again it goes into that first for loop. Okay, it's a little bit confusing, but yeah. So if you do it in a practical way, you'll understand it in a better way. Okay. What happens if I give I here? Anyone can tell me what is the output for this? I have kept here I. What is the output for this?
1, 2, sir.
1 2, sir. 1 2 1 2.
Yeah, so that's wrong actually. See, I told you, no, this entire for loop needs to be completed. So the first one value will be assigned to I. So the one value is assigned to I, and for J in B, see, it has 5, 6, 7, 8. So this loop will be completed until and unless all the elements of B are executed inside this for loop. So whenever you're taking one value from the B, it executes the I value, that is 1. So since there are 4 numbers here, the 1 will be repeated 4 times. The 1 will be repeated 4 times. After that, so it goes into this 2 value, and again it comes into this for loop. Again, we have 4 values in this for loop. The 2 will be repeated 4 times. See, the output will be 1 1 1 1 and 2 2 2 2. Okay, so try to understand it, guys. Like what's happening in the for loop. Think it in a practical way. The first for loop, it takes the values, and if a second for loop is present inside that for loop, it definitely executes the entire thing for that for loop, and then it goes back to the first for loop. It takes other value, it comes inside, and it completely finishes off the second for loop, which is present inside the for loop. That's how the multiple statements work. So like this, now you can use multiple for loops. I mean, whenever there is necessary, a for loop inside a for loop inside a for loop inside a for loop. So these are called as nested loops. Right? Are we clear, guys? So I guess, yeah. So give it a try. Like give it a try. Like use 2 for loops inside. I mean, at least like use one for loop inside a for loop, and try to understand the output, like how it is working and all, and then understand the sequence, how it's going and all inside the for loop. It's very easy only, but yeah, at first it will look like complex thing, but yeah, so once you do it in a practical way, it will be very easy. Okay, we already seen the loop control statements. We have seen break, we have seen continue. Okay, we'll go with other PPT. Okay, we already seen the length. We already know how the length works and all, for a string, for a list, for a tuple, kind of, right? So we already seen the syntax, and we have seen this input, dynamic input from the user. Like you can give an input to the machine directly, where it takes that input and it shows you that. I mean, you can apply the operations after that. Okay, yeah, functions. Yeah, so functions are very important. Yeah, so in any programming language, you come across these functions, you come across the classes, objects, and all. But functions are very important. You use these functions very much. If you're going with OOPS concept and all, yeah, you'll use functions there also. So before going into OOPS concept and all, we need to have a clear understanding about functions. Okay, so we'll see the definition of function, and then I'll try to explain you in a practical way. Yeah. So the first point is the definition of the function here. A function is a block of organized reusable code that is used to perform a single or related action. Yeah. So function is nothing but, it's a code where we sometimes, we reuse it always. We reuse the code always. For example, consider like this. If you want to add up two numbers, like we'll take the program of addition of two numbers. So whenever you want to add two numbers, what is the program? So let us see. Okay, I'll go here, a equals to 5 and b is equal to 6, and then I'll apply c equals to a plus b, and then I'll print c. So this is my programming logic. Okay, if I execute this, the answer is 11. Now if I want to change the numbers, like, or if I want to use the addition of numbers, then I can't use this piece of code from here to other cell, right? It's very difficult. So what I'll do is I'll copy the entire program, I'll paste it here, and then I'll use other two numbers if I want to add up. See, so if you want to add two numbers, every time if you want to take the variables, assign the values to the variables, and add up the numbers and assign it to a new variable called c and print the statement. So it's like it's a time consumption process for us, and it's a tedious process for us. See, since addition of two programs involves only 4 lines. Okay, 4 lines you'll write so many, like 100 times if you want to write, it's very difficult for us. Same like for loop. If you want to print the statement 100 times, it's very difficult for us. That's why we are using the for loop there. Sequence, the iterating over the sequence and all. But here, if you want to use the addition logic here, you can't use it. No, like you want to take the variables, you assign it and you do it and every time. Like if you want to use the addition logic 100 times, then it becomes very difficult for me to use that addition logic, like change the numbers, add the numbers and print it. Right? So instead of that, we'll create a function. We'll use the addition logic inside that function. Yeah, we use that addition logic inside that function, and simply I'll use that function to do my addition process whenever required. Okay, that means you're creating a block of organized reusable code that is used to perform single or related action. Right? So addition program has got only 4 lines. What if your logic has got 100 times and you're repeating it? It's very difficult, right? Every time you want to execute that 100 lines and all, it's very difficult for us. So we'll neatly organize that inside a wrapper that is called as a function, and then we reuse it again and again whenever necessary. Okay, let us see how to create a function, like how we define functions inside Python and all. Let us check that. Okay, so in order to create a function, we use a keyword called def. So def is a keyword to create a function. After the def, you can give whatever name you like the function name. So the function name, I'll be giving it as addition, followed by parenthesis, okay, and followed by colon. Same like if block, you need to give the colon and all. Yeah. So for creating a function, again I'm repeating it. For creating a function, we'll use a keyword called def, followed by the function name. So whatever the name you want, you can give it there. Here I have given the function name as addition, and after that followed, you need to give the parenthesis there. That means if you give the parenthesis only, Python will understand that it's a function. If not, it will give you an error. After that, give a colon. Okay, when you colon, like we will not have any braces kind of there in Python. That's why we are giving colon. When I click on enter, see, when I click on enter, yeah, so it gives me this indented block. Okay, yeah. So if I write some logic here, that means that logic belongs to that addition function. So what is the logic you need to write down here? Okay, I need to add up two numbers, right? I'll use a is equals to 5 and b is equals to 6 and c is equals to a plus b and I'll use print C. Okay, this is my functional block now. So I have created a function by using def keyword and then followed by function name and then followed by parenthesis and then followed by colon. After the colon, we have an indentation block. Inside the indentation block, I have defined my logic. Okay, I've executed it, and yeah. So now, if I want to like call that function, like execute that function, I'll call the function name followed by parenthesis. So if I execute this, see the answer is 11. Okay, and what if you want to change the values dynamically of addition of two numbers? Here we have fixed it, a equal to 5 and b equal to 6. Here we have fixed it. So what if you want to change, if you want to change something like change the values dynamically? Okay, for that, we have functional parameters available. Functional parameters or functional arguments, whatever you call it. So functional parameters or functional arguments, whatever you name it, yeah. So it's there. uh, so the functional parameters, so what do you mean by these parameters? Parameters are something where you assign dynamically values into that function. Okay, so how you are going to assign dynamically values into that function? Okay, inside this parenthesis, how many values are required or how many variables are required for our logic, will give it. For example, I require a comma b. Okay, I require a comma b here, the functional parameters and all. Okay, so here I'll take out this b equal to 6 and a equals to 5. Okay, simply I'll execute this function, and after this I have executed the function by using addition, the function name and the followed by parenthesis. But inside the parenthesis now we'll give our parameters like 10 comma 11. So the a value is 10 and b value is 11 now. So it enters into this block, c equal to a plus b, c equal to 10 plus 11, and if we print the c statement, the value should be 21. See, now it's very easy for me. If I want addition program, I'll simply use my addition function here. I'll simply type 20 comma 30. So now within a single line of code, I can perform my addition program. See, since addition program has only 4 lines, I'm just giving you this example. Sometimes our logic might contain more than 100 lines or more than 10 lines or more than 20 lines. So it's very difficult for us. Like if it is a repetition task, it's very difficult for us. Then neatly arrange everything inside a function and then reuse it again and again and again. How many times you want, you can reuse it. So that's how the functions are very important in any programming language. So functions are neatly organized code where you can reuse it again and again and again and a number of times. Okay, so these are called as parameters, right? So now in order to print a function, so you need a keyword called def, okay, followed by function name, followed by parameters. You can leave the parameters empty also, that's okay, and followed by functional logic, and followed by return statement. I'll tell you what is return statement. And after the function name, after the parentheses and all, before the functional logic, we use a doc string which acts as comments for the function. That means, see, after this, if I give a string here, so this is an addition program. Okay, so this is a doc string. That means you can write comments also inside a function. You can directly write comments inside a function by placing some quotations here. So the first line after the function, if you give some comments there, it considers that as a doc string, as a comment, and it ignores this comment. And these comments are used, like if you see a function, then you'll understand like what the function is about. You can clearly mention what the sorry guys, so you can clearly mention what that function is about and what are the logic you are writing. Now you just give a brief description about the logic so that whenever you look into that function, it will be very obvious to you, right? Like by looking at the doc string and all, you'll understand like what the function is about. So it ignores that. first string answer, the first, it considers that comment string as a comment. See, it has ignored it, so still the value is 21 here. Okay, so that's how the functions are that important. Okay. Okay, your homework for today is like create a function where you give a number to that function and it tells whether that number is even or odd. That's your first task. And your second task is like create a function where you can print uh, even numbers within a range. When you call that function, no, automatically it should print the even numbers. And third task is create a function, and if you need to provide a parameter in the form of a string, and you need to tell me whether that string is a palindrome or not. Palindrome. So try to search what is palindrome and all and try to do it.
Sir, second question, can you repeat once, sir?
Sir, repeat
Look,
please all the question.
okay, I'll repeat all the three. Okay, cool. Yeah. The first task is create a function, and yeah, so assign one parameter to it, and you need to tell whether the number is even or not by calling a function. Same like addition of 10. I'll call that functional function name here, and I'll give a number here, and automatically it should tell me that whether it is an even number or odd number. That is your first task. Okay, second task is create a function where it can print even numbers within a range. Okay, print even numbers within a range. And third task is create a function, and the input for that function is a string. You need to tell me, like the function needs to tell me whether that string is a palindrome or not. Palindrome strings. Try to search for palindrome strings and try to understand it. Palindrome or not, palindrome string or not. So these are the three tasks which you guys need to finish it. Yeah, everyone are clear with the task, right? I guess everyone are clear with the task. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, so that's how you can create functions, and you use functions widely. Okay, we'll look. Yeah, so see, a function is a block of organized reusable code that is used to perform a single or related action. The rules to define a function. Okay, already I've discussed the rules. Again, we'll look into the PPT. Begins with a def keyword and followed by name, function name, and then followed by parenthesis. Arguments or parameters need to be written in this parenthesis. So a comma b, whatever the values you are giving to that function, those are called as arguments or parameters. First statement is optional. It is called as doc string. As I told you, it's a doc string which is used for comment. The first statement after you create a function. It's optional. If you want to write, you can write it. If you don't want to write, you can. That's okay. You can ignore it. It is called as doc string. Starts with a colon and intended block is applied. Yeah, we have seen it. The statement return expression exits a function, optionally passing back an expression to the caller. Okay, so now we are calling the function, but we are not able to save that value. We are just printing that statement, right? So again, listen clearly. So we are calling the function by using this caller. I mean, by using that function name, we are calling the function. And now we can't save that value since we are printing out the statement. Okay, if you use return statement, return C, what happens is you can store that value inside a variable. See, value 1 equals to addition of 10 comma 11. If I print value 1, it stores that value, whatever the output is inside the value 1 because of the return statement whenever you're calling it. Okay, hold on, return. Okay, I need to execute this function because we need to overwrite it, right? Yeah, so I've executed this function. Since we have changed the code, I've used return keyword here, and I applied value 1 here and addition of 10 comma 11, and I've printed out the value 1. If you want to store something inside a variable, then definitely you need to use the return keyword. What happens if you don't use the return keyword? If you use print statement only, still, see, I'll execute this and see if I print the value 1, it shows me none only. So we are not able to store a value inside a variable, like the functional value inside a variable. So if you want to store something inside a variable, then definitely you need to use the return keyword. If you don't want to store it, then fine, use print statement for checking purposes and all and leave it. But if you want to store the value, definitely you need to use the return keyword. Are we clear? Yeah. The statement return expression exits a function. It exits a function, optionally passing back an expression to the caller. See, optionally passing back an expression to the caller. Whenever you're calling it, it optionally passes the value to you. Okay, so we have seen parameters or the arguments inside a function. So there are like different categories present for these arguments or parameters. There are like four kind of functional arguments present in Python. The first one is required, the second one is keyword, the third one is default, the fourth one is variable length. The parameters, I'm talking about the parameters now, see a comma b. So these are called as parameters. So these parameters are divided into four types. Okay, the first one is required, the second one is keyword, the third one is default, and the fourth one is variable length. Okay, we'll look into this required first. So required arguments are the arguments passed to a function in correct positional order. That means whatever we have used for calling the function with these parameters are called as required parameters, because we are using the parameters in a positional order. That means if you are using 10 comma 11, automatically it considers the first value to be as a, the 11th, the second value to be as b. So that's how the required arguments are built in functions. Remember, the required arguments are something where you give the values in the correct positional order, and according to the positional order, it considers that value and it assigns that values to the respective parameters. Yeah. So those are called as required arguments. And coming to keyword arguments. Okay. Keyword arguments are something where you give a name, the parameter name to the value, and you assign that inside a function, and automatically it takes that value as that parameter. Okay, let us see that as an example so that we have a good understanding. Okay, let me go to my Jupyter. Yeah, so what's happening here? I'll use a is equals to 10. Are you getting my point? So these are called as keyword, where you can mention the argument name and you can pass that argument name to the function. Okay, let us see what happens if I print a comma b. Okay, I'll execute this function, and then here, see, the value of a is 10, the value of b is 11. Since you have mentioned it here, what happens if I change the value? Like if I use b value as 10 and a value as 11, now I can change the parameters also, because I know my keyword names, right? So by using the keyword names, I can change my parameters position as well. Okay, I can change my parameters position as well. So see, b equal to 10 comma a equals to 11. So if I print this statement out, see, the value of a is 11 now, the first one. The value of b is 10 now. So according to the keywords now, we can clearly mention our parameters. But now you can ignore the order and you can clearly mention the parameters whatever you like. Yeah, sorry. So that was called as keyword arguments. And the third one is default arguments. Assumes a default value given by the user if a value is not assigned. See, while dealing with the data science stuff and all, we come across these default parameters everywhere. So try to understand, in a better way. So what are these default parameters? Okay, so you don't want to assign all the parameters, like you want to fix a value while creating a function only. Then what you need to do is you just keep as b is equals to 10, and let us see what happens. Okay, I'll execute this statement, and now I'll remove this value and I'll apply a is equals to 10. See, so the a value is 10. Now I have not mentioned the b value because the b value is fixed. These are called as default arguments here. Okay, and the b value is also 10 because we have fixed the value, right? So you can fix the values also inside a function, If they, I mean, like by using default arguments, functionality and all, you can fix the values. But what if you want to change this default argument? It's very simple. So I'll use 10 comma, I'll use 20. See, it automatically changes out the b value. See, the b value is 20 now. So you can fix a value and you can change a value if you want. Okay, and coming to data science, and when we deal with like high modules and all, na, at that time, you know, each and every module will be fixed with some default values. If you want to change the values, we can change it. If you want to use the default value, no need to use that argument. It automatically uses the default value. Okay. Yeah. So that's how, you know, the default values or whatever, you know, present in functional parameters are built. Okay. And yeah, the fourth one is the variable length arguments. Yeah, so you try to do this as a homework, like variable length, you know, you try to do that as a homework. In the name itself, it is telling us that variable length, you can use any number of length of parameters there. So try to do this as a homework. Yeah, I'll explain it to you in the next class if you don't understand it. Okay, scope of variables. So scope of variables, you know, there are like two kinds of scope present in Python, like not only in Python, like everywhere. You have local and global variables. Okay, so local variables are something where you can access the local variables inside the function only. Remember, local variables are accessed inside the function only. Okay, and global variables are accessed throughout the program. See, called locally within the function, that means they are accessed only inside the function. Global, called globally outside the function as well, that means they can be accessed throughout the entire program. Okay, I'll tell you one. I'll show you one example. Okay, a is equals to 10. So this is my variable, and if I want to do something, if df number, like we'll use some addition only, same program, so that you'll not get confused. 10. Okay, a comma b. Okay, a comma b. Now here, if I'm using uh, a is equals to 10. Okay, I'll use some different variables. B comma c. Yeah, remember this. Yeah, so if I use b is equals to 10 and c is equals to 20 and d is equals to b plus c. Okay, I'll use print d. I'm not using return because I don't want to save my value. Okay. Okay, so what happens if I print b outside this function? B outside the function, so that means b is declared inside the function. What if I want to print the variable b outside the function? Let us see. Okay, a equals to 10 and b is equals to 10. Print d we have, and why the values? Okay, I need to use the statement. Yeah, see, so we have called the function, we haven't called the function yet, right? So that's why it is showing us some error. So previously we might have declared b somewhere, so that's why it has taken that b value. So now see, name. Okay, okay, I guess there is a b value which you have written already, so I'll restart my kernel, restart and clear output. It clears my output. Now if I want to, yeah, see now, so print b. So name b is not defined. Yeah, previously something where somewhere we might have used b, so it has saved that output, but here you see it. So print b, name b is not defined. That means b is a local variable and you can't access the local variable outside the function. Okay, yeah, so what if I print a here? See, print a. So a is a global variable which is defined outside the function, and you can access this global variable inside the function as well. See, okay, so first we'll remove this b and then we'll use this. See, so 10 print a and the statement 30. So print a is something where it is declared globally and you can access the global variable inside any function throughout the program, but you can't access the local variables outside the function. So remember, so local variables are accessed only inside the function and global variables are accessed throughout the function. Clear? yeah, that's it for today, guys. Like have a clear understanding about functions and while loop so that we can proceed further. Okay, let me stop the recording and then we can have a doubt session.